August 9th, 2019, Fascism, Art, Work, and Education. It's a moral outrage. Of course it is. Invasion, animals, infestation, illegal people. Media and politicians not allied with the regime headline. This is not who we are. Yes, with qualifications. But it is who we will be. We will be rounded up, have our children left abandoned, shamed and criminalized for doing nothing wrong. Our opposition to Trump should not only be based upon the energy of our moral outrage, it should also be motivated by our fear. Because everything he has done to the undocumented immigrants, he will do to us in a heartbeat. He has shown us the way that he governs, which is actually just a strategy of destruction, born of a streak of nihilism, fueled by self-hatred, too stupid to be Shakespearean, more on the level of the Joker, but even lower than that. We are living in the zeitgeist of a lousy comic book proposal, too dumb to be accepted by the DC editors, where the blood, the death, the destruction are very real, not pen and ink drawings. No, Trump is not the tragic one. He's simply too low. We are the tragic ones. All of this started long before Trump. We are the frog in the pot who ignored the slow boil, now desperate to leap to safety in the moment before our annihilation. After Vietnam and Watergate and the 1960s civil rights movement, in the shadow of the defeat of Hitler and the exposure and punishment of Joseph McCarthy, democracy emerged for a brief moment in America. The press was uncensored in Vietnam. Students protested an immoral war and were listened to. African Americans demanded human rights and got some of them. A President, Johnson, declared a war on poverty, the next step of FDR, and advocated in word and program economic justice in America, a concrete version of human rights. Congress conducted oversight and ended Nixon's criminal administration. And then, slowly but surely, the empire struck back. An emblem of that was the movie industry, where in a brief period in the 1970s, it was director-centric, was succeeded by a conservative power structure, with studios run by lawyers and accountants. Corporate public relations strategies emerged, and free speech suffered. Mind control, repressed reporting, happy talk local news, hair blown dry, phony laughs and bonhomie. Murrow long dead, Concrete past his prime. The Democratic Party went corporate. Taxes and less regulation were nearly all that was discussed. Not many words about what government could do for you, for me, for us. FDR and Johnson dead. The only thing good in the manner that we were governed was infrastructure that remained from what they built. The fossil fuel industry began to kill us slowly. The planet is the frog in the pot. Big Pharma murdered us with prescription drugs. Trade deals honored investors, ignored our labor and environmental health. Every group that gained rights and an expansion of African American civil rights gains. Two other groups, women, immigrants, LGBTQ, everyone faced an ugly counter-reaction. Media empires, white power movements, major political parties, arrayed against young and vulnerable freedom, an alliance of rich man greed and poor man envy and ignorance, attacking people who just want to live, work, and love in dignity. And your everyday life has been horrible. You strategized for how to position yourselves in places of safety and kindness, from mass shootings to petty insults. Day-to-day life made you hard and deaf. The sensitivity of your skin diminished. Your five senses were muted. No savings, no health care, no job security, nomads, hunters and gatherers scrounging for food, a fire, a hug, and a smile, competing against each other, not brothers and sisters on a journey, afraid to speak, unable to feel, empathy in short or no supply. All of us, you and me, in an illusion of democracy, possibility, an illusion of an imperfect society arching towards the good over time, eyes purposely closed to our descent and the fragility of our democracy and possibility in the first place. And then comes Trump, the unvarnished id, who made all the evil that was unconscious conscious and out front, unapologetic, the veneer of hypocritical mouthing of the ideals of freedom, democracy, and concern for our fellow citizens and the other people of the world is dispensed with and replaced with full-throated fascist ranting, and the yelling wakes us up. The ice raids in Mississippi are far from the last steps before we rise again. Those people are canaries in the coal mine. Fascists feed on the weak and grow stronger and focus on ever stronger prey until they self-destruct in hubris, arrogantly going after someone stronger than they are and coming to their end, leaving piles of dead bodies and ruined lives in their wake. Your moral outrage should be your survival instinct. For once, let us see the fascist rise relatively early. I saw it when he announced his candidacy. I wasn't alone, but I was in a small minority. Look it up. It is only now that a consensus grows that Trump is a fascist, not merely an incompetent narcissist or a man in over his head who might somehow rise a little to the job. Only now it is recognized that Trump is a fascist executing a program of cruelty. For once, prophets should be listened to. For once, the screaming warning siren should be heeded. This is a morally illegitimate government. It should be treated that way. We all should be shooting victims in an El Paso hospital who refused to meet with the son of a bitch who incited their destruction. It is not enough to ask for kindness and civility and still tolerate what is wrong about the system, saying it is the way it is. No, it is the way we make it. I went on my last marketing call yesterday. I'm an art teacher. I teach ways of working on one's humanity to create one's presence. I crazily and naively thought that this work could be done in businesses and law firms and that I could make good money at it. But this guy who said he believed in the importance of humanity in the professional workplace and eagerly agreed to meet with me used our coffee time as an opportunity to cry about the death of his father that occurred decades ago, a sign of stunted human development, a solipsistic self-pity that stood out particularly on this day when I had attended a memorial for a family that had just lost a 17-year-old daughter days before. The trim, aging man in a tailored checkered sports jacket, worn in celebration for his day of freedom in Chicago, away from the constraints of his golden cell in his big office in the skies of K Street in the nation's capital, told me my wares as a teacher had to be sold. A teacher can't sell. A teacher who sells is a salesman. A teacher is a person who works for the furtherance of civilization. Of course, a teacher is an endangered species now. I like simple, a blog, a video made on my laptop, people reflecting together in a room and figuring out ways to apply what they learned in the world to let it color their actions. That's all education is. It's the hard work of conscientious humanity. It is work that has nothing to do with money. A teacher just needs to be supported by people who are honored to have a chance to work on their human development. I don't blame them. This was my mistake. Business is not a source of right livelihood for me. Like I said, I'm a teacher. My wife's friend from a different sort of meeting, a social dinner, an ambush, says tisk tisk. A medical doctor, a liberal, on a committee for MacArthur Fellowships, says tisk tisk. A doctor, liberal, committee member, knows nothing of art or fascism. She, like the weeping legal executive a well-paid slave in an air-conditioned nightmare, knows nothing of fascism or art, thinks the entirety of existence is defined by the drudgery that they endure for a certain social recognition by certain people. It's not even the money, not really. They serve the system. But the system is rotten, and now the rottenness has reached a crescendo. And the old ways don't even work partially anymore. I told the executive that a teacher can't sell, and I thank him for that. He gave me the space for my self-overhearing, as he has never learned how to process loss and see it all in some broader context and bring it back to the service of other people. I have never learned how to make money in an uncompromising way in order to truly serve other people. I am living on savings from my 5 years of work at UIC, a place where I developed many ideas and processes, not by dint of their support, but rather because of their incompetence and inattention. So now this guy and these people tell me that if I want any of their money, I better be able to sell it to them. And I told him that a teacher can't really sell what he is teaching. As soon as you are selling, you aren't teaching. He didn't agree, and then added the suggestion that big firm lawyers would never spend the time working on their humanity that I said it required. It does require work, time. He suggested that a few of them might give it an hour a week. They, of course, are too busy making money. If they don't want to prioritize being a human being and want some superficial rah-rah session to make them think they can or are happy, they can be or are happy, given the obscene trajectory of their lives, running errands to execute the cruel demands of people with money, selling to the naive and uninitiated, doing maintenance work for the fascist alliance of rich and the envious poor, well, let the dead bury their own dead. He and the doctor are in prisons of their own making, and I can do nothing to help them be free. If you are wondering what these career, check that, livelihood, ruminations have to do with this piece that started looking at ICE raids in Mississippi, they are relevant because Trump and the exposure of the illusion of good America is not only some general history of a nation, it is also the story of our lives, our jobs, our marriages, our neighborhoods. I've encountered fascism and the honored ideal of America on a business networking coffee meeting and eHarmony coffee dates, in the classrooms of universities and the administrative offices at those schools, on theatrical stages, in courtrooms, in hospitals, and assisted living and managed care facilities, and on the road, in traffic. The American ideal is my heart, and fascism is the challenge to my heart's desire that makes the desire stronger. Fear is a prerequisite to courage. We should be afraid of what Trump might do to us and fully committed to its holy alternative, uncertain of answers, filled with right questions, passionately engaged in creation, hearts and minds, and ready to fiercely defend the pursuit of true happiness, come what may, from enemies foreign and domestic, and patient with the confusion of people who are stuck, burdened with the wrong kind of fear, not the fear which alerts us, but the fear of hopelessness that accepts lives of quiet desperation, bereft of faith that there could be a better way, lacking confidence in imagination, and bedeviled by a persistent, dull, confusing pain that whispers, "You are more. This is not enough." Copyright 2019, Richard Thomas.